Audio Jungle.
Good evening. This is the Women's Small Business Initiative, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. Welcome to tonight's special edition podcast episode on the male and female perspective of being in business. My name is Kimberly McLemore, and I am your host. We also have with us a guest host, Natalie Montez, owner of Divino by Montez. Tonight you are going to hear from two very talented business owners from the Washington, D.C. metro area. Heather Schooler, owner of the Money Library, and Hans Williams, owner of Signet Services. All right, welcome Hans and welcome Heather. And I do apologize up front, Heather. I think I just butchered the last part of your name.
Oh, no, Schooler is correct.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure because I kept thinking, man, I should have asked before we actually got started. That's usually what I do.
And Hans is really pronounced Hans.
Well, thank you very much. See, that's why. And this is why we have these moments, right? Being on interviews. But again, I appreciate you both coming on with us this evening. I'm truly, truly excited about what we're going to be talking about today with the male and female perspective, being that I have a regular, normally Thursday evening program. Usually I focus strictly on women in business, and today it's just awesome opportunity because now I get to hear, and we all get to hear the male perspective side of being in business. So if you two could just tell us a little bit about yourself, take a few minutes, talk about who you are and what you've been up to. We'd appreciate it. Go ahead, Heather. We'll start with you.
Well, thank you. First, I'd just like to say thank you, Kimberly, for inviting me. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. Like you said, my name is Heather Schooler. I own the Money Library, and I teach adult individuals, financial education. And the purpose for my business is to help people be prosperous and to be able to navigate the waters of money and finances.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Hans?
Thank you, Kimberly. It's an honor to be the first male on your podcast. So, Signet Services is a company that takes care of both home remodeling and home care. So everything from the handyman work that I do to also things like power washing, carpet cleaning, whatever needs the home may have.
Okay. All right. Before we kind of dive into further on the interview, what I want to do is I always like to backtrack a little bit. Tell us a little bit personally about who you are, where you're from, and how you actually got inspired to doing business before we dive into the rest of this interview. Heather?
Oh, well, thank you. I actually got started in 2006. What happened was, and I'll tell you a little bit of background. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio. And I grew up with great parents, but my parents were what I call pension parents. So they were able to work a job for 20 or so years, get a pension, and retire. So when I started working, there was really no one to teach me about money, no one to teach me about finances, and no one to teach me about retirement. So I actually started on a quest to learn how to do these things personally, took a lot of the certified financial planner classes, And I found out that I was not the only one that had this issue. So I developed my own curriculum in 2006, and I've been teaching it ever since. And a lot of people who were teaching it locally were like, you should have this information available to others. So that's how the Money Library got launched.
Wow, that's phenomenal. The thing that I loved about what you just said is that you had parents that you called them pension parents. A lot of, I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of black people don't really talk a little bit or even understand what a pension plan is. You know, it's something that it's not as familiar. We don't really talk about it sometimes in our homes as we're, you know, preparing our kids for getting out of school and thinking about their future. But at the same token, like you're also saying, that the one thing that I also find is that we are so involved in just getting that education, going to school, and like I said, and getting the pension, or either talking about a retirement, not so much a pension per se, that they forget about the business aspect, and that we can take what we've learned through all the resources we have and start doing for ourselves. So, you know, what you're doing is phenomenal, and it's a pleasure that to see that you are actually out here teaching other people that understanding that, hey, you can do this beyond just being on a pension plan and having to work yourself to death to get there.
That's right.
You know, so that's excellent. Okay, so again, thank you for that input, and we'll go ahead and let's hear what Hans has to say.
So, thinking of where to start. Early on, when I was young, the idea of even having an allowance was something that Mom and Dad said, if you want money, you need to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
And so began making different crafts and going around and selling them in our neighborhood.
Wow.
And from there, it definitely gave me an appreciation for money. Mom and Dad were excellent with budgeting and taught us to budget as well. And so that provided a foundation. I actually went through ministerial school after I finished high school and whatnot, and then ended up working in human resources. It gave me a chance to care well for people, and that's a heartbeat of mine. And so when I moved back to the Virginia area, I'm a native of Northern Virginia.
Okay.
So when I moved back in 2013, I wasn't finding a job right off, and so someone told me about an online platform that as a self-contracting, you could just post your profile and people could hire you to help them with odd jobs or all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So that began a start into the world of being self-employed, and I've had different jobs along the way. I've done some in marketing, done some in just directing operations and whatnot for different companies, but each time I always came back to having a foundation where I could provide for myself.
Right.
And so I realized eventually, I really like both the flexibility as well as the ability to expand my horizon, because although I've done a lot of different jobs within the corporate world and I've enjoyed them, they've also been high stress, and you're working with a margin of the profit.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas being self-employed, it's like I feel like the energy I put out, I'm actually getting a greater return for my investment.
Absolutely. And like the beginning of your story too, when you're talking about the fact that you were taught that you want something, you got to earn it.
Right.
And that's a lot of things that I think are missing, especially in today's world that we live in. These children today think that it's instant gratification, that they don't have to earn anything. And we're kind of old school.
Yes.
And, that's how we were raised too. Nothing is going to be given to you. You have to get out there and get it yourself.
Right.
And I also like the perspective that you're talking about, how being in the corporate world is great. It gives you what you need. But when you have a love and a desire and a passion for something, you're going to jump right into it, and you want to get back to that. And I think we all go through that. I talk about all the time how even though I have a business of my own, I am still sitting in the world of a cubicle. I hate it. It drives me crazy. I'm like, wait a minute now. I got to get out of this cubicle, because you're conforming. You can never think for yourself. Somebody's always telling you how you can breathe, when you can get up and go to the bathroom, how long your lunch is going to be. I mean, so that world is a very... It's not a bad thing. I mean, I have to, we're all blessed. It gives you an opportunity to do what you want to do. But at the same token, like you said, when you have that desire and that passion to live your dream, that's what we're all doing here at this table as well. Right. And we're all providing something that's useful for the community as well too.
And from what I can hear too, from what Hans says, is that and also from Heather's perspective as well, is that you guys had that foundation of hard work. And so that goes a long way with driving towards your success of your business, your goals, you know, and that return on investment and the energy that you put out. And so it's a real testament and a motivator for others out there. When you see someone really working hard for their own business, you know, it's really motivating. So I appreciate that about both of your businesses.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks.
All right, you guys. All right, let's move on to this awesome interview we're having here, and this conversation has been great so far. But what I want to ask you guys is tell us a little bit more, like I said, about the business. And you guys have very unique businesses, and you talked about them real quickly. But also in the process of it, talk a little bit about how you target market your business and who you're reaching out to. So anybody can start, whoever wants to go first.
Well, Hans, why don't you go first this time?
All right, Heather, thanks. Kind of you. So, target market for me is somewhat broad. My target market is more based on locality. So I'm looking for work that's in a range that's either nearby or in the DC metro area. So I'm trying not to drive more than 45 to an hour away. That would be kind of my general max.
Okay.
When it comes to the different ones that I've found, especially our need in the service, I find that's why it is so broad. Oftentimes you have homeowners, you have tenants, and you have those that would be moving in and moving out. And so those four categories of either those that have things going on in a property that they own, or a homeowner, and then you have those that need to do repair because they're moving in or out of a property, need to do a deep cleaning or whatever else because they are moving in or out.
Okay. All right.
And being that this is such a transient area, that's a huge market because people are constantly moving around. You have military, you have
That's
the corporate
right.
environment.
That's
people
right.
are coming and going all the time. So being able to stay up on you know who's coming and going in these ways of communicating and networking is really awesome.
Right. And so when you're reaching out, you said like you'd stay within a 45 minutes to an hour. Now, why have you decided to not expand beyond that?
I think because part of it is just the amount of time, gas, travel, especially in Northern Virginia, right here on the edge of DC, there's an amazing amount of traffic. And so when I'm thinking of an hour, just to get into DC could take me an hour.
Yeah, or
and
two.
That is only, if there was no traffic, only a 30-minute drive.
Right.
So just to give you an idea, it's like you could sit for an extended period, and that's all time being lost in a day.
Okay. And I'm assuming you have a huge team of people that you have go out and take care of all of the services that you provide?
You know, what I've done is I would call it a very lean business.
Okay.
It's me, but then at times I will subcontract out different individual jobs to a team of different guys and ladies that help me. So
okay, yeah, that's smart.
It's a lot more fluid.
Right. That's actually smart. I mean, you're working smarter, not harder.
Right.
And like I said, it's lean. It's keep the costs down, and that makes sense. All right. Okay, Heather, you want to chime on in there, darling?
Absolutely. I actually kind of follow a similar business model where I do a lot of the hands-on work myself, but I have a team of people that I can pull in for larger projects. My target market is actually, it actually started off locally, but now we've put together some videos and things that we can do virtually. So it's adjusted to people about ages 25 to 45. Okay. Typically, I'm using the government's definition of middle class. So somewhere in around the $50,000 household range and above, and people who are interested in learning. So, you have those people who are always interested in, like probably the people who listen to your podcast who are always interested in gaining more information, improving their lives, improving themselves. And actually a lot of my clients are small business owners because they want to be able to take control of their financial life. And especially after you do all that hard work, you want to be able to see the benefits of that when you're, 70, 60, 70, 80 years old.
Right. And actually, you hear back in the day where you talk about the getting old and retirement, but we also would like to see the benefit before we hit the 70s and 80s, because we don't know if we're going to be here when we're 70 or 80 years old, and I mean, it's sad to say, but you hear those stories all the time where people have constantly saved and saved and saved to prepare for their retirement, not realizing that we're not promised tomorrow.
Right.
So, to be able to have this type of information up front and learning those capabilities that Heather's providing, I think is very important to understand how your money can be utilized early on in life without feeling like that you have to be in that struggle or wait for those so-called golden years, as I used to hear when we were growing up. And I kept thinking, wait a minute, I don't want to be so old that I can't enjoy my life. I can't get up and move around, and you want to go sit on the beach, but then you can't. You're bent halfway over, and you can't even enjoy the beach. I'm like, no. So I want to do this before I get to that point in my life, and I think that it's really important that the services that Heather is providing and about the being in business and knowing how to utilize your money is very, very important early on. And even though you have such a huge flexibility, Heather, of people that come to you who truly want to learn, even at 25, that is phenomenal to even think about wanting to sit down and say, where is my money going to go to? How is it going to work for me later on in my life? So
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, and I applaud all my 25 or millennial clients, and I'm really glad you brought that point up, because I actually authored my first book, and that's one of the things I talk about, because the book is actually called Living Great on What You Make, so that you don't have to wait until you're 60 or 70 or 80 to actually be able to enjoy life if you have a plan right now. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is one of the points that I do bring out a lot during our conversation.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. I just think it's something that's important, because I look at myself being in my 50s, and, we're constantly learning and constantly changing. But at the same token, with the way the society is today and, how things are supposed to be done, the money that we could make back in the 70s and 80s and 90s is not the way. It doesn't extend as far as it used to be. So you always have to be so prepared to relaunch yourself and figure out what is going on. And every person I've interviewed so far, most of the women, and of course now I have a male, I'm so excited about, but most of the women I've actually talked to, they have several streams of line of income coming in, because nobody today is set on that. It used to be where you could stay on a job for 20, 30, 40 years, even a business, and never have to worry about having any other income coming through because you knew you could be successful. Well, that's not the world we live in today. So it's very important to understand, what is out there, what you need to do to continue to feel like you have that residual income coming in without feeling like you got to break your back in order to, like I said, survive and wait till your retirement years.
That's right. So that brings up the next good topic question, too, about the social network. And how, in general, men and women kind of think of that and they use it differently. So we're kind of wondering how you guys might utilize that in your business and how it's successful in your specific business areas. Hans?
So social media or networking?
Social media, social networking, right? Using social media for your business.
So that's interesting. I do believe that social media is a powerful agent for advertising and whatnot. At this point, I still have my profile set up on the platform that I originally started with.
Okay.
And because I've been there for some time, I have like hundreds of different reviews and have like 99% satisfaction rating. And so what I've found is that oftentimes trickles over. If I have a hole in my schedule, I'll still fill it with things from the platform and take care of those things on platform, since that's the way it's supposed to be set up. But oftentimes those relationships carry over and continue for sometimes years more. What I've observed is that the different ones that I meet, because they have the background of having read my profile, having read the satisfaction ratings and reviews, there is a depth of trust that would not be there otherwise.
Absolutely.
And so although I do not have a website or something like that set up at this time, because for one, I don't think I could handle the amount of traffic necessarily, at least currently. I've found that that rapport or the review system and the rating system does have a great impact as far as business
So it
success.
sounds like you have a very methodical system in place that is really successful for your type of business, and that really helps your relationship building, and then your, the reoccurring business
Right.
and all that, and that exchange of information, that word of mouth.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because in social media is not always for everybody. We just live in a time frame today where any new business comes out, that's the only way people find you. I mean, it's crazy because even when I did my businesses prior to this one, it used to be back in the day where you stood up in front of people and you talked to them.
Right.
You didn't have the opportunity to say, oh, let me grab, let me get your name and put you on my social media platform, and
Right.
you got to have 5,000 people to follow you, or you got to have 20,000. I mean, times have definitely changed.
Right.
And so I like the way your platform is set up because it is unique and different, but it's unique for your specific business.
Right. There's certain businesses that still sort of fall into the category of the old school, like, knocking on doors and saying, if you ever have any needs or any repairs or remodeling, here's my card, and I'm just right around the corner. I'm local in your community, and I can help you out. As opposed to, I can fix your roof and you put it on Facebook,
Right.
Because it's a little bit, it's like,
Right.
okay, you're not a roofing company, right?
Right, right.
But when people get to know your skills from talking to them and building relationships, that's more of that, you have that technical, that handyman,
They already have an
That's
experience,
right.
and they know that the work they do is going to be quality.
That's
Just
right.
like this, my motto, excellence is our signet.
Very nice.
There you go. I like that. And Heather, I know you on social media.
Yeah, but by force. No. I used to be one of those people who were like, what they call a Facebook stalker. So I would look at everybody else's Facebook account and not post anything on mine. But as a business owner, it's been really important for me to make sure that I utilize social media. So I definitely am. I do a lot of posts for my entrepreneurs and financial clients, but you can't deal with millennials and not be on social media.
Exactly.
I mean, I know I go and speak, and I've spoken at a lot of small business expos. I speak at local functions, and a lot of people will come up to me after my talk, and they'll have researched me by checking out my website, looking at my Facebook page. And so they've already done their due diligence to find out who I am and what I'm about even before they've come and seen me speak. So for my business, it's absolutely critical that I use social media. I could be a lot better about it, but I am definitely involved in Facebook and Instagram. I think I need to get a little bit more engaged in Twitter. But definitely Facebook and Instagram for sure in terms of being able to meet the people and promote events and just get out there and get information out to the people.
Right. Yeah. And actually, Heather and I, we met at the Small Business Expo. That's how I met her. The first one we had here in DC, and it was a pretty good event. I mean, it was new, so it wasn't as large as probably some of the other ones, but I'm sure year after year it'll get larger. But we had some very candid conversation about business, and what we do. And it was funny because Heather was like, she was right on top of me when she was like, so how are you getting these clients? How are you getting these women involved? She was on and on. So that's how we connected and chimed in, and worked very, perfect for us. And so it was a great opportunity to meet and understand what she was doing and what, my platform was and so forth. But one thing I want to talk about a little bit more, I really want to kind of dig deeper into this conversation about, I want to hear on the male perspective about business, how it affects you, what it is that you feel is different for you, being a male in business versus how we deal with it as women. And Heather, I'll have you chime in on the women aspect of it. But Hans, I want to hear your story about that. What are your challenges? What does it feel like to be a male in business today?
Thanks, Kimberly. I may not be able to put it in juxtaposition to female perspective because I would need to hear all the different female perspectives in order to say it, but I can speak as a male. I've studied some counseling as well, and so just start with the psychological side. The work that I do I take very personally.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as if it's an extension of myself. And so the amount of weight that each job holds to me is it's heavy in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, each individual job, I'm very detail oriented. So each individual job to me is almost like my signature. And the relationship I have with each client is not just business owner to client. It's like friend to friend, or it's a relationship.
Right.
It's a bond of trust, and so it's something I take very seriously. There's I would say a deep weight of responsibility, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the whole of business, I think that what I've observed, both with myself and I've heard it said, and I've read for guys in general, is that oftentimes in business, we can draw a lot of our identity from it. It's something that I have to moderate, because I think that it can be an unhealthy thing. If we are not careful, we men can begin to let that become our identity. And what can happen at that rate is family and everything else falls second place to this image that we hold of ourselves based on our success. So what does a healthy view look like? What do I want from myself as a male in business? I believe that being in business has two different fronts. One side is to provide for myself, my wife, and my firstborn son that is coming.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
leaving a legacy.
Exactly. So there is that reality of it needs to be a financially sustainable business. The other side is that I feel that business as an extension of me is an opportunity for me to reach out, to touch, to bless those around me. And
Absolutely.
so when I said earlier that my joy is in caring well for others, there's often times that when I'm doing a job, I can throw what is the income of this job out the window and just think about, how do I care for this person and their need well? I think that, to me, that's the truest essence of what it means to be in business for yourself, or to care well, because the buck can stop with me. I've been in businesses, I've done marketing and whatnot, and the product I was selling and the services I was selling, I could talk it up, I could gain rapport and trust, but then I get feedback that the job that was done was not that excellence that I had promised, and it was the most frustrating thing. So to be able to both promise and deliver, to me, is a huge deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was listening to everything you're saying, but the one thing that really stood out for me is that men are almost expected to be the all and one all of everything in their family. Like you said, it's like it's a part of you, and you know you have a responsibility. But there's also this piece where some men don't feel that there's a responsibility for them to take care of anything.
You're right.
But I love the way you put it in a perspective of, hey, I'm a male first. This is my responsibility of me, but it's also part of what I have to do for my family. You know that, and you understand that. In today's society, things are so different. You know, growing up, and listen to what you say. I've always been told, you know, hey, man has to do what he's supposed to do to take care of his family. I could tell you to this day, my father's been in business for almost 50 years, and he would never let his wife, you know, run the household in a certain way. But that was how things were then. But he has that pride, and the pride of that you're talking about as well, is that it's not always just about the money, but knowing that, hey, I'm doing this for myself, my family, but to make sure that these people are being treated and taken care of the way you would even expect yourself to be taken care of. That's the beauty about being in business. And I like the part when you were talking about on the marketing aspect. You can market all day. You can talk about how great your organization is, the company is. And at the end of the day, they're not giving the results that really, truly need to be given. And we see that every day.
That's not something you had control over. And so that was very frustrating, which is like really refreshing to hear that you were that engaged and bought into the entire process, where you could not just do your part and not care about the rest.
Right. It wasn't just about making that
Right.
few dollars,
Right.
I got to make money to take
Right.
care of this or that.
Right,
Yeah.
but you also had that, that forward thinking of, I might want to follow back up with this client and see how everything went. And when I hear that they were dissatisfied and I'm the one that initiated them to go down this road, then you take that personally.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And really, you should, because like I always tell people, in being in business, we have chosen this.
Yeah.
Nobody came up and said, "Do you want to be in business?" So, customer service to me is the number one priority. And customer service isn't just about delivering the product; it's everything else that comes with that process. So, your background understanding of who you are, I think, is where it really starts. And I love the way you said it's the psychological part, and you're absolutely right. It really is. And I think sometimes as business owners, we don't always look at that piece.
Right.
But we also realize that there's something deep in us that we know we need to be out here doing what we're doing. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for everything. Right. And we don't always have the answer, but we're doing it.
That's right.
Yeah, all right, great. Thank you so much for that. That was excellent.
Some good questions.
Thank you. All right, Heather, come on in. Let's hear your perspective as a female being in business.
Well, I think for me, it's more so, and it's very similar in some of the things that Hans was saying in terms of, wanting to make sure I do a great job for my clients. I do take it very personally, especially considering what I do is usually, a one-on-one encounter. So even when I'm doing coaching or working individually or teaching a small class, I'm touching those people. They know me by name. They'll see me at the supermarket. So I want to make sure that the product that they get is the best that I have to provide. And I'm always very grateful when I run into someone that's been in a class of mine. I actually had that happen not too long ago. I ran into someone that was in a class of mine, and they just wanted to say thank you for, offering the materials that I offer, and how it changed their lives. And for me, if I can do that for 1 or 2 or 10 or 100 people, then that's what makes my life, worthwhile. And the other thing is, I'm fortunate to have 2 wonderful nieces who are now 7 and 9. And my thought process when I do my business is I want to be able to allow them to kind of be set up when they're 18, 19, 20. So I want to be able to pay for wherever they want to go for college. So if they get accepted into Harvard, they can go to Harvard.
Wow.
If they want to go to grad school, they can go to grad school. And I'd love to also be able to give them their first cars and and kind of get them started as adults, because for so many of us, especially the millennials, you see the millennials, they're having to move home because they have the student loans.
Right.
And, the cost of education is so high. And that's one of the things I talk about with the money library. When we went to college, your parents could actually afford to just work and pay for you to go, or you could afford to work and pay to go. And that doesn't exist anymore unless your parents are, extremely wealthy. So I really I've taken that on for myself so that they don't have that burden, so that they're able to start off with a fresh start.
That's excellent. Yeah. It's funny how, we're hearing 2 different stories, but at the same token, you're hearing the same thing. The pride and the future of how you guys are looking at everything. And I love that you're sitting here talking about taking care of 2 nieces, and they're your nieces, and they're not your immediate family members, but at the same token, you're going to show them and make them understand the importance and the value of money and how it affects your livelihood at a young age. And it's never too early to learn. It's never too early to be prepared. So you let them know, Heather, that as you're preparing for this, that they will owe you in the future, right?
That's right. Something that really stands out to me. I'm sorry, go ahead, Heather.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I'm going to wait until they're about 11 or 12 before I start doing that.
Oh, okay. Because they will not forget this. You realize that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say that something that really stood out to me about both of you guys is that your goals are solid, and they don't have dollar figures behind them. They have an idea of what you're helping others or fulfilling a need in the community, or making a difference, educating. Those are the kinds of goals that are going to push you forward through your careers, through your businesses to success, right. And then everything else will fall with that.
That's right.
So I really love that that's what is driving you guys, because that's how you're going to, reach everyone.
Right. It proves the longevity.
Yes.
And like we were talking, like you're saying, it's not always about the dollar bill. And we all know that's just a perspective of life. You got to have it in order to survive. It is what it is. But at the same token, that richness of giving, and that's the thing that I love about the organization that I have here at Women's Small Business Initiative. It's about sharing those resources. It's about learning and educating each other, right. And understanding that you don't have to reinvent the wheel,
right.
That we're all here. There's plenty out here for us. But every day, you can get up and teach somebody how to dream.
That's right. And your transparency will make you or break you, whether it's positive
Amen.
or negative. So people can see through whether your goal is to get the bottom line, the bottom dollar,
that's right.
Or whether it's to help them.
That's
and
right.
So being transparent is great, and everyone should be, but everybody will see also. So,
absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and live in a glass house, but be good. I live in a glass house, but I have nothing to hide. I want, so
that's right. That's right. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
right.
nothing wrong with getting what you want to get.
That's right.
Absolutely. It's about doing it in a respectful way,
that's
in
right.
a manner where you respect yourself.
That's right.
And that's what it's about. All right, you guys, this has been great. I have a couple more questions before we close this out. Each one of you, if you had a success you wanted to talk about, pick out one success that really owned into you and made you realize that what you were doing is the right thing. Anybody, chime in on that one.
Well, I'll go first. I actually I have a client. And he's an entrepreneur, runs a livery service or limo service, who was really just struggling to stay positive above water. And the reason why I bring this one up is because it made me really excited, because we actually when we had our very first meeting, we've had several meetings since then, but when we had our very first meeting, and he provided me with some of his financial information. Mm-hmm. We were able to, in 15 minutes, we were able to identify what was causing him to be in that negative underwater and brainstorm some solutions. Mm-hmm. And now his business is generating positive revenue. So, awesome. Those are the moments that I live for, I mean, that's probably not normal, that we can fix something in 15 minutes.
Right.
But what do the commercials say in the little small print, results not,
right.
But that was just one that was really exciting for me because I had seen this individual, and now I've used their services because, I like, if you're using my services, if I can, I'd love to use your services as a fellow business owner. But absolutely. I've seen this individual just work at it for years and years and years and never understood that they weren't making ends meet. So to be able to put them in a position where this year he'll be going on vacation and doing some things that he wasn't able to do before, that really just, makes me, I had a boss that used to say, thank you for coming to work today. Mm-hmm. And I felt glad that I came to work that day. So.
Cool.
Yeah, that does. There's nothing better that makes you feel like that this is the reason why you get up every day.
Yes.
Changing somebody's life, giving them, what they desire and they've been working so hard for. But like I said, just not that little bit of misunderstanding, and then to realize you can take care of it in 15 minutes. Yeah, that I would be ecstatic about that as well. So that's a beautiful success story. Hans, tell us a little bit about which one you think would be the one that you would remember the most.
Sounds very rewarding, Heather. So recently I was helping both a neighbor and friend with their move-out projects. Mm-hmm. They wanted to make sure they got their full deposit back from their landlord, and they had they had kids, so you can just imagine the state of the home.
Right.
And I was going to, just take on both sides of the project, both the cleaning as well as all the different repairs. And so it projected about how much time needed, how many days needed, and whatnot. I did bring in some extra help, whatever. But when it came down to it, the deadline for the project also coincided with me needing to go out of town with my wife and my mother-in-law. And so I have this tension between the commitment to family, commitment to my friend and client, which I would like to treat each of my clients as friends. It's very grassroots. And the boundaries that I try to set for myself to make sure I get enough rest and everything as well. Well, when it came down to it, the project ran over, and so I stayed overnight, continued working. The next night, I stayed overnight, continued working, and got it done before we left town. And so when I heard back from the client that the landlord walked through the place and was really super pleased, they got their full deposit back, to me, that was a very fulfilling moment, because, like I said, the feeling of responsibility to me is, if I have to sacrifice, it's going to be on my end. If someone's going to have to bite the bullet, it's going to be on my end. And so to hear that I was able to both fulfill my promise to my family and fulfill my promise to my friend and client, that meant a lot to me.
Right. And being in business, I think we all understand that we sacrifice a lot.
Yeah.
Because we want to live our dream. We want to, but also part of that is, like you said, making sure that our clients are happy. And even though you sometimes you have to balance, and you're like, I love my family, I want to do for them, but at the end of the day, everybody has to understand that if you don't do what you're doing, there'll be no business.
Right.
There'll be no things for this flexibility for your family, and your friends and so forth. So, like I said, sometimes you can wear your heart on your sleeve, so to speak, or you have this other side of you saying, well, what am I going to do? It's like having a little devil in the angel. Trying to figure out how it works, but it is what it is sometimes. But the dedication is the key, and that's what you're talking about in your story, is that you had that dedication, that drive, that you were going to make sure, no matter what it took, I'm going to get this done. This is my client. Friend, even if the friendship was set aside, this is your client. But at the same token, the family also still gets the love and the things that they need to have from you. But you also people have to understand, without doing this, you can't get those other pieces. So sacrifice is what it is. That's and right. All of us here on this table, all of us talking today, we sacrifice a lot to get to where we're at. And we're going to continue doing that in order to be successful business owners.
That's right. And having said all of that, those were great success stories. I love hearing those. WSBI is about sharing resources to help other women achieve their goals. So I'd like you guys to talk a little bit about what advice or resources you would provide to other aspiring entrepreneurs about getting in business. Hans?
So, advice. I think that one of the things I would share as advice for someone wanting to have their own business is to consider what gifts or qualities that you have that can help or support others, and then using those as a foundation. Because ultimately, I think really business, as with all parts of life, I honestly believe are about the relationships we form. And so having a foundation that is relational is going to take you a long way, and find ways of building trust with your clients. As far as resources, there's a few that I use that I found to be very helpful. One is an app called TripLog. I use it for tracking my expenses, mileage, and whatnot. I know QuickBooks has a similar process, and that's one that I want to look into more. But that's one that I've used for the last few years, and it's been very helpful. I think the other thing I would say as advice would be know the tax code. I do my own taxes.
Okay.
And because of that, it forces me to look at all the details and find out what I can be writing off, find out how I can actually be saving. It's part of being lean. There's so much that we can take for granted or not even realize you could actually be saving money before you even make it.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Heather?
Well, Hans is just doing my business for me, just telling people save money before you even make it. That's just perfect. Well, a couple of words of advice I'll give. One of the things that I always tell the business owners that I work with, especially if they're new in business, is whatever you budgeted to start your business, take it times 3. I've never met a business owner that didn't underestimate the cost that it was going to cost to start to run their business. So that would be one piece of advice I would give, especially for people who are starting out from a financial standpoint. In terms of resources, I would definitely say don't be afraid to invest in learning how to be an entrepreneur, especially if you've never been an entrepreneur before. And don't be afraid to invest in building your team externally. I mean, like you heard Hans said, and like I say, we don't necessarily have massive teams, but we have people who we work with to do certain functions and activities to help us so that we don't have to do all the functions of our businesses. And you're not going to be able to do everything yourself. So don't be afraid to, spend that money to find that good person to do your social media, or to spend that money to find that good person to do your taxes. Because I do my own taxes too, but I know people get like deer in the headlights as soon as you start talking about taxes. So
Exactly.
most people aren't going to do their own taxes. So don't be afraid to find a good accountant, to do your taxes and to do them properly, and who can give you good advice in terms of, not just doing your taxes, but actually doing tax planning. Because there's a difference between someone who'll do your taxes and who will actually help you plan so that you can save that money before you even spend it. So I know as a new business owners, or even sometimes as existing business owners, we try and be really close to the invest with our money and not, spend it because we know we only have limited resources. But I think if you're smart about what you spend your money on, it actually helps you to bring in more revenue, because then you can spend your time on those income producing activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically what you guys are talking about, as I always say, is stay in your lane.
That's right.
Know what you know. If you're, like we call it in the government, a SME, if this is your specialty, that's fine. And you don't always have to know everything else. And I've done that a lot here. I've learned that a lot here recently with my business, and having a marketing team that's outside. That's something I did my basic marketing, but beyond that, I was like, okay, this is not working. So I had to, I hired a good marketing team.
And then you budget for what you're willing to, farm out to other people.
Absolutely.
So like for me in my business, I am not willing to learn how to do my own accounting. That's just one thing that I am not willing to do, but I will, maybe spend the time to learn the coding for my websites and doing some of the marketing and things like that, so that I can save in that area. But I will budget to make sure I can pay for my accountant.
Yeah, well, you better pay for that accountant, okay? We want those taxes paid, because you won't be in business if you don't pay taxes.
But I like what Heather said about the planning part of accounting that I hadn't thought about before, because if you are projecting for your next year's goals and spending, then this person or yourself, you need to have, be actually actively saying, okay, but for this next year, this is what I need to have set aside, this is what I'm going to do, so how do you think that fits into this plan?
Absolutely.
And all of that to be smart and to be successful.
Absolutely.
Stay ahead of the game, so.
Yep, that's what it is about being in business. But I'm going to come to the end of this interview, but I want to ask you guys before we close out, how can the listeners get a hold of you? Heather?
Listeners can get a hold of me through the contact page on my website, www.themoneylibrary.com. They can find me on LinkedIn under Heather Schooler. They can find me on my Facebook page under The Money Library, and also Twitter and Instagram as well. And I can also be reached at area code 312-883-5823. That's area code 312-883-5823, www.themoneylibrary.com.
All right. Thank you, Hans.
Sounds so official, Heather.
I I practiced, Hans.
Excellent. You go, girl. So, first would be email. You have Hans W. at signetservices.com. That's SIGNET services.com. Or, I'm sorry, .org actually. So, Hans W. at signetservices.org. And then you can reach me at 703-861-0443. 703-861-0443.
All right, great. Thank you guys for that information. Also, I want to say thank you all for this awesome. I'm just like sitting over here overwhelmed and just excited about this interview tonight. Thank you for the time. I know we're all very busy. Thank you, Natalie, for being my guest host. I always love working with Natalie. Natalie and I have a special relationship. So, we've been teaming together on some things for a while now. And so I always appreciate her time and that she gives to me to help out, with my business stuff. And like I said, I do appreciate you all coming on tonight. For everyone else out here, on my listeners, you will be able to hear us anytime through Spreaker, is where the show is being done through. You can find us on Spreaker at www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. Please become a follower. Also like the show, because that's very important of how we excel with the program, so we can reach other listeners as well. We're trying to get the program to another level of getting to iHeartRadio or iTunes and Sirius. So it's very important that we have these follows and likes. I know it's crazy with the, everything we have to do with social media, but this is how it works. But otherwise, also, this program is on every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. You can find me anytime through the WSBI website at www.wsbillc.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. But until then, you all have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time. And thank you.